For those of you who follow the channel on the community page, on my main YouTube web page, you'll already know that I am rebuilding the Moor Junction. I've been doing some work on it. I'm not done yet. Thought I'd bring you in and let you have a look at what I'm doing. This is where the crossover will go. One of the legs of the tripod is sitting in the way here, but I'm not working in that location at the moment. This is a new one, and it's the same model as the old one, so I'm hoping or expecting that that will fit right in, and I won't have to do any work. But over here, I have moved the points down away from the 180 at that end. I've added another, let's see, about 115 millimeters, 11.5 centimeters of straight track past the curve here. Just to give you a quick overview of what's going on, what I'm doing, what I'm trying to accomplish. Right now I have two short radius turnouts points that are tucked up very near these curves that go around up here. What I want to do when I'm done is I want to move these down so that they're centrally located between this set of curves and this set of curves, so that I have as much straight as possible prior to entering the point, coming from both directions. So what I'm going to do, if you look over on the right, the after, is I'm using longer radius points, using long radius points instead of medium radius points, and I've moved the whole thing down so it's relatively evenly distributed between the two sets of curves. There's about as much room here before the curve as there is here before the curve. Now I realize it's not drawn exactly that way, but this is just a sketch that I wanted to provide to demonstrate what I'm trying to do. The double slip is going to remain the same. The double slip has been fine, the geometry has been fine. It's just that the device itself, the double slip itself, has worn quite a bit, and a few parts of it are bent from heavy locomotives slamming into it when they weren't completely on the rails, so to speak. Well, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, how about giving me a thumbs up? If you're not subscribed, how about subscribing? That way you'll get notices of any new videos that are coming out. Everything from Big Boy last week to 00 and sometimes in scale. So I've moved down this much from the curve, from where I was before. And the reason is every once in a while I had some sort of rolling stock or a locomotive that didn't like coming into this turnout. This is not set or anything. I'm just cutting the track to start with. Don't be alarmed if you see kinks or anything. As it comes around this, the express lines anyway, the freight line is flat. But as we come around this curve, this is super elevated. This rail on the outside is higher than the one on the inside by In my case, quite a bit. Definitely 10 degrees back here. Starts to reduce about here. Still reducing. And it gets flat about right here, about right where the old point used to be. So I'm almost done. So I have that to do, and I have this to do down here. And I've been salvaging my fish plates because I use these Hornby, not only the insulated ones, I use the Hornby insulated ones, I also like the Hornby metal ones, the non-insulated, the conducting ones. I think they're steel because they're very magnetic. I think they're chrome-plated steel or they're stainless steel of a type that is magnetic. There are such things. And they really grip the rail, grip them better than any other fish plate I've ever tried, and I've tried a lot of them. Anyway, I recommend these as being the best of the best. The Hornby, let's see what is the number? These are R920s, R920s. That's the insulated ones. And the conducting ones are R910, 910. I don't use anything else but those anymore, even if it costs me a lot to get them, or they're difficult to find or whatever. I won't use any other kind because these work really, really well. My camera says the battery's running low, so I'm going to turn it off here and go find the charging cord and hook that up. I'll be back in just a second for you. Once again, as I mentioned in my N-scale tips and tricks video, I like these machinists' marking pens to mark the track when I'm going to cut it, and other things when I'm modeling. But the point is, no pun intended, that it has a very fine tip and makes a very fine mark. So it's very accurate when you're cutting track. You can make a tiny little mark, and of course it rubs off when you want it to go away. But you can make a tiny mark that's very accurate when you're doing your cutting. If you haven't seen my N-scale tips and tricks video, I recommend it. In fact, if you're not subscribed, why don't you subscribe? And that way you'll get notifications of some of my videos. Most of the tips and tricks in my N-scale tips and tricks video are applicable to all scales. N, Z, TT, double O, HO. I'm pretty sure 2-rail O gauge as well. So there is my mark, and it's in ballast, so I will cut it a little bit to the other side of the mark. I will clear out all the ballast and then I'll make the final cut. I will be back after a bit. Okay, I'm back at it. What I've done is I've cut the end of this sleeper off on both sides and cut the middle out. Now the little web that runs underneath there, let's see if I can show you that. The little part that goes between the sleepers underneath the rail, that's still there. But I have cut the sleeper and the end of the sleeper off so that I can make the cut in the rail itself. Let's see how close I can get in here. That's not bad. There's my mark. Okay, so there's my 2 marks. I'm going to cut on those marks. Oops. These cutters, as good as they are, they do not leave a flat end on the rail, even if you're holding them the correct way. You always want, well, maybe I wasn't holding them right. Zoom back out. If you're using these, the side of the rail that's on this side of the cutter, let's see, yeah, that ends up on this side of the cutter, that will be flat. In other words, if I'm cutting a piece of rail and this is the part I want to keep, you cut it like that. Because that will give you the best cut on the side you're keeping. So what was I doing with the Dremel? I have a cutting disc on it. I was simply polishing the end to make it flat. Always wear safety glasses when you're doing that. You don't want this disc fracturing, flying apart, and hitting your eye at 100 miles an hour. It'll blind you. You don't want that. Always to be avoided whenever possible. Okay, let's hook this up and see if it fits. This won't be a true test, but the track is hooked up. And I will be able to see if there's any horrible problems. Does not look like it. Looks like it's good. Those track joiners need to slide on a little bit further, at least this one does. But other than that, it's all looking pretty good. So now I can take it apart and put the road bed down, glue that down, and then get ready to do the final assembly and glue the track down. In the meantime, I've got to mark and move the point motors and probably move some of these droppers to a more appropriate place. Some of them I may be able to just reroute, but we shall see. I'll be back in a bit when I get all this work done, and I'm ready to glue the track down. That'll be enough to weight that down till the glue sets up. which won't be but a few minutes. And now I need to do this other one over here. I moved the point motors to their new locations. That was quite easy. I used the template that's supplied with the tortoise motor and drilled the mounting holes and the clearance hole for the wire from the top. And then I got under the bench, unscrewed them from the old spots and screwed them into the new spots, and they seem to be in good shape. Next is this piece. Okay, here's the tricky part. Getting everything to line up at the same time. I have this little tool made out of a palette knife with the tiniest little notch right up there. And that allows me to get in here and fish this wire into the hole like that. There. There's still a little give in the glue, and I can make the final adjustments. These pins I'm using, they're foam nails from Woodland Scenics, but you don't have to buy them from Woodland Scenics. Any fabric store, drapery store, you can get them sometimes in hobby stores, and you can get them for cheaper than you can buy them from Woodland Scenics. I just bought these, I don't know why, one day. I saw them and I grabbed them. Okay, well, we'll let it set up. Let the inspector do his thing here. Well, he says it looks good, fellas, and did a good job, and we're looking forward to testing it. Okay, well, we'll see you in a little bit. I'm going to let the glue set up. In the meantime, I'm going to start working on the double slip. I'll just do this, and I'll bring you back when I get it done. It's similar to this, only it's a little bit tighter spaces. I'll probably be swearing a little bit more over here. The double slip is in. It's hooked up to the point motors. Well, I thought it was. That one's not. Okay, well, I'm not done yet. Okay, now it's hooked up. One of them had slipped out. The wires are very short once you cut them off, or should be. Here's where it stands right now. I'm going to quit for the day. I'm going to leave it until tomorrow at this point. The only mistake that I've found so far that I made was the motor for this point and this point I put in backwards. In other words, they were both facing the same direction instead of facing each other. If they face each other, then, at least the way I wire things, then I can put them on one switch and they'll both go the right way when I throw the switch. Okay, that's straight through and that's crossed over. That's the way I had it before, and for some reason I forgot about that and I didn't put it in there correctly. Anyway, I got that switched. It was no big deal. Worked fine. The next thing is soldering droppers onto the track. I can't trust any of the fish plates to conduct electricity, so I'm going to make sure that everything is powered. I'm soldering droppers. Then when that's done, I use a track rubber, and that scrubs any flux off the rail and also any solder that happened to get on top of the rail. So that's perfectly clean and smooth. And how did I decide where they go? Well, it's basically experience. Any place that looks like it might be isolated electrically, I put droppers. Because like I said before, you can't really depend on these old, dirty rail joiners, fish plates, to conduct any electricity. So the trick is to make sure that it's, you're going to get plenty of power everywhere. That was Helgen Peak, and it crossed over, no sweat. I've switched to class 37. Emergency stop. Ooh, that driver is going to get fired.